everyone, and thank you for joining me today. I am sharing this bright and beautiful card featuring the Cheerful Chirps collection from Spellbinders, and I am using Cardstock Warehouse cardstocks for this. I have already started to assemble the bird, which is fairly simple. You can find all of the cardstocks and products in this release down below in the description box. But I'm using some hot pink as well as flamingo. I'm using some bright white as well as the Arancio, that is the orange for the beak. I also have the factory yellow that I'm using for the additional little feathers that go on the head, and some ebony, which is the black color for the eye and the feet. I also have some greens mixed in here, so I have the Mars green for some of the flowers, lavender for some flowers, then we have the Lockwood green and chartreuse for leaves, and then my little branch will be made of Kraft brown box. Again, these birds are fairly simple to assemble. There aren't a ton of pieces, but for this one I am going in and using primarily foam squares for the feathers to give that extra dimension. I did go ahead and add on the tail feathers, but I have to remove that later so I can add on the feet because I completely forgot about those. So for each layer of the feathers, those wings, I am adding the foam squares in between. For the head, I'm also adding foam squares to pop that into place. I do not add any foam on the beak, but I do add it to these little top feathers on the head. I also went ahead and just glued on the backer for the eyeball as well before I started assembling. I did not mention that. It just made everything a little bit easier. And then I used the wet adhesive to also add on the eyeball piece and the little cheek piece. Once those were in place, I did go ahead and pop up the head onto the little bird body. And again, I will end up having to go back and add the feet because I completely forgot about them when I was assembling this cute little bird. Next, I'm going to start assembling all of the flowers and the leaves. Again, all those colors will be down below, but the leaves are chartreuse and Lockwood green primarily, and then my flowers are lavender and Mars green, which is like a bluish green color. They look beautiful together in my opinion. I used wet glue to adhere the first and second layers together of these little cluster of flowers, and then I used a small pop dot to put them in place, the top piece in place in the middle. The lavender flowers are only 2 layers, so I just used the pop dot to put the top layer into place on that as well. I love adding dimension throughout my cards, especially when working with florals. These are super simple to add on. And then I just adhered the lavender flowers with wet glue onto the stems that were die cut out. Moving right along to the actual card panel, I grabbed an A2 panel of the crystal metallic cardstock. It is a beautiful cardstock with a nice little shimmer to it, and it is in white, and I embossed this with the bamboo 3D embossing folder. I think it's bamboo screen. It's a part of this new release, and it added such beautiful texture to this paper, and the shimmer was beautiful. So I'm just going to emboss that and then start adding my pieces into place. I wasn't quite sure of how I wanted my bird to sit or where I wanted it perched, so I did play around with my layering and my placement before I used foam squares primarily to pop all of these little floral pieces into place. I did adhere the branch with wet adhesive, but when you are doing this, make sure that you leave a bit of it unadhered so you can slide the tail of the bird behind the branch. Also, I did later decide to cut this down, so you will see me basically put everything into place and then cut down a half inch on 2 sides to make this about a 3 3/4 by 5 inch panel. I also like to add glossy accents to the eyes to make them pop a little bit more as well. So you saw me doing that earlier. But once I went in and decided to cut things down, I basically had a lot of greenery on one side and it looked unbalanced to me. So that is why I cut the A2 panel down. But it was easy to kind of just place things where they needed to be to kind of fill the space. So just to get a better idea of how things were looking. So this is the before and this is the after. Once I cut things down, I was just able to move my greenery around and fill in some of those spaces. And I even was able to add in a few of the little pieces that I did not use before. Instead of using that die cut sentiment, I decided to stamp a sentiment from the Spread Your Wings Sentiments Clear Stamp Set, which is a part of this release. I just stamped that onto a white rectangle piece and added that on. I did not pop that up. I just glued that right into place, kind of sliding it under some of my greenery. And to finish this off, I just popped this up onto an A2 size panel of Lessebo white cardstock. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this little video tutorial. Head over to Spellbinders if you are interested in this die set or any of these products from this collection. And head over to Cardstock Warehouse if you love these cardstocks. Alright guys, that is all that I have. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.